A few days ago, I packed up my car and made my way to an Airbnb that I rented a few miles outside of Andrews, North Carolina. I live and work just north of Atlanta, Georgia, and being in the city had been draining what little sanity I had left. Most of my team, including myself, had switched to working remotely due to quarantine regulations. Since I live alone, the mental toll of staring at the same four walls of my cramped one-bedroom apartment, day in and day out, was starting to weigh on me. A lot of people were struggling with the transitions to working from home, so overall productivity decreased, and the workload seemed to pile up faster than we could manage. Project after project kept getting dumped into my lap, and with everyone cooped up inside all the time, I didn't feel like I could escape the crushing weight of the added stress. One day, I realized I had reached my breaking point. I submitted a time-off notice to my supervisor, booked an Airbnb, and decided to spend a couple of weeks winding down near the Nantahala National Forest. If I was going to be isolated, I could at least use a change of scenery. I had always enjoyed hiking, fishing, and camping as a child. Moving to the big city for my job had always felt a little out of character, so I was excited to reconnect with nature and enjoy everything the park had to offer. With lockdown restrictions, I figured foot traffic on the hiking trails would be minimal, so I'd basically have most of the woods to myself. The weather was supposed to be nice and cool, perfect for wandering the forest, fishing, birdwatching, or whatever else I felt like doing. I left around sunrise and arrived at my rental shortly before noon. The cabin was moderately sized and rustic, but appeared well maintained for guests. I retrieved the key from the lockbox near the front door and made my way inside to get settled. The cabin was larger than my one-bedroom apartment in the city, but somehow it felt far more welcoming. I walked into the bedroom and took in the breathtaking view from the panoramic window that covered the back wall. Miles of forest stretched as far as the eye could see, gently dissolving into shades of green and grey beneath the thick canopy, which allowed only scattered beams of sunlight to peek through. I considered plopping down on the bed with one of the books I brought, but decided against it. The day was still young, and I was eager to explore. I had gotten lucky finding this cabin. Not only was it secluded within the national forest, but it also had a private hiking trail that started right beside it. Reviews I read before booking said the trail was scenic and captivating. A few miles to the east, the private trail would eventually connect to public hiking routes, but no one had ever reported a stranger wandering onto the private path and ending up near the cabin. I laced up my hiking boots and headed out. Towering trees gently tossed in the wind, rustling their leaves, and I found myself staring upward as I walked deeper into the forest, hardly noticing where I was going, until something tall and dark caught my attention. Deep within the trees off the beaten path, I squinted to make out the object, but couldn't tell what it was. Against my better judgment, I turned off the trail and walked toward it. Curiosity had gotten the better of me, and I knew I wouldn't sleep that night unless I quenched my thirst for adventure. As I approached, I realized I was staring at a darkly colored metal staircase, seemingly leading to nowhere. I walked around the base, trying to find evidence of what it had once connected to. To my surprise, there was none. I chuckled at the absurdity of it, reaching for my back pocket to grab my phone for a photo, but I had left it in the cabin. Probably not the best idea to be out there without a phone anyway. I turned back and returned to the trail, heading back to the cabin. Exhausted from the hike, I took a hot shower and decided to spend the rest of the evening relaxing. The next morning, I woke feeling refreshed, though I couldn't shake the thought of that bizarre staircase. After breakfast, I laced up my boots again, double-checked that I had my phone, and set out to snap some pictures to confirm I hadn't imagined the whole thing. After walking for a while, scouring the dense forest, I began to feel defeated. I couldn't locate exactly where I had found the staircase yesterday. Just as I considered heading back to the cabin for lunch, a strange noise caught my attention from up ahead. I walked toward it, and what started as a low humming evolved into the rumbling tones of tribal horns, played in unison throughout the forest. The sound grew louder, and a creeping feeling of dread pooled in my stomach, as if the horns had hypnotized me. Suddenly, I found myself at the foot of the mysterious staircase. The horns were deafening now, and, as if guided by a force beyond my control, I placed my foot on the first step, slowly ascending against my own free will. At the top, cold sweat broke across my body. My heart pounded, yet I felt unable to will my body to turn and leave. A deep, withering sense coursed through my veins, churning my stomach and weakening me. I stared into the forest, noticing the edges of my vision darken and blur. Just before I lost consciousness, my eyes focused on a tall, dark figure in the trees, seemingly watching me. Seconds later, my legs folded beneath me, and the sound of the horns faded to peaceful silence. When I awoke, I was lying in my bed at the cabin. Panicked, I reached for my phone. Nearly midnight, my first thought was that I had napped, perhaps having a nightmare. My memory was hazy, and I struggled to recall the morning's events. I dismissed it as stress and an overactive imagination. I breathed a sigh of relief until I noticed I was still wearing my hiking boots. I had never been this exhausted in my life. A sudden, lingering feeling of being watched washed over me. I remembered that the large panoramic window remained uncovered, open to the inky black forest. My hands shook as I summoned the courage to face the darkness, telling myself nothing would be there. To my horror, outside the window stood a tall, thin black figure. Its head resembled an eyeless deer skull, several sets of bony antlers twisted and snarled atop it, framing a cracked, decaying jaw. Its body appeared made of twisted, gnarled branches and vines, dark and pulsing, as if composed of rotting worms. I stifled a scream, shuffling backward and scrambling for my car keys. I bolted from the cabin, threw the car in reverse, and sped down the winding dirt road, never daring to check the rearview mirror. I didn't stop until I reached my apartment in Atlanta. Once inside, I checked my phone, hoping to find photos to prove what I had seen, but there was nothing. I'm still unsure exactly what I encountered in those woods, but one thing is clear. If you ever find a staircase in the forest, turn and run away as fast as you can. If you are based in the UK and would like to enjoy Freshly batch roasted coffee delivered to your door? Visit vitalcoffee.co.uk and use the coupon code mrfreakystory to get 10% off from all products. I will leave a link in the description below.